That's right, E.T. on the Atari video computer system. The undisputed worst game of all time. A game so diabolical that it crashed the industry, so evil that Atari had to dump untold numbers of cartridges in a landfill. A game that even simulates E.T. crawling out of the bowels of hell whence he came. Everybody knows that this is the worst game ever, right? Everyone has always known this is the worst game of all time. Not exactly. I, like a lot of other gamers, am a Nintendo brat. Christmas of 1988, my grandparents sent us a Nintendo Entertainment System. My first game system. My very first game was the original Mario Brothers. And, like a lot of Nintendo brats, I had no concept of gaming prior to the Nintendo age. In fact, E.T. is actually 2 years older than I am, and I did not even know what an Atari was until I was much older. I acquired a ColecoVision when I was around 9 years old or so, but did not even own my first Atari system until my late 20s, which is the backwards compatible Atari 7800 I am using for this very review. I remember the late 80s, but I am definitely a 90s kid. And like so many other kids during that decade, I had very little care for retro gaming. In fact, most of the 90s gaming vibe was all about the current and future games. The retro gaming nostalgic craze where gamers finally started looking back to gaming's past was still many years off. E.T. was long buried and long forgotten by gamers. Quite frankly, most of us neither knew about it nor cared. So where did the reemergence of the worst game ever stigma attached to this game come from? Where did the modern hate for this game gain steam? While most people have probably since heard about E.T. on YouTube, I would trace the reemergence back to an older source. If I had my entire gaming magazine collection with me, I would give you the exact year, the exact issue, and the exact page. But alas, I have stored it away with family, as much as I have moved in recent years, lugging around 3 Rubbermaid tubs filled with my magazine collection, each weighing over 100 pounds, is a lot of extra heavy lifting. However, I want to say that it was a 2003 or 2004 issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly that ran the first modern story of the saga of E.T., and the bandwagon started rolling from there. I've seen a number of videos covering E.T. I've seen the AVGN episode from the movie I will probably never watch. I've seen the bandwagon types dumping on the game, but one video I must have seen before going into this review, as I've barely played this game since I got my Atari 7800, was an Atari tips video explaining the gist of the game. Because I remembered the basic concept of what you were supposed to do in E.T. We seem to forget, or perhaps most of us never knew, being children of the plug-and-play gameplay generation, that a lot of Atari games came with in-depth manuals that explained the game concept. Some games relied on these manuals to explain details that you would otherwise have great difficulty figuring out on your own through playing the game. E.T. is definitely one of those games that requires a general explanation of your objectives. Otherwise, you'll be completely lost. In fact, I've seen many bash reviews where the reviewers bash this game based on their own ignorance of the objectives, and not on the game's merit. So not wanting to be like one of those YouTube kids that simply loads a ROM of a game I like, and then bashes it because they don't know how to play it, I decided to give a fair shake to E.T. by learning how to play it first. E.T. the extraterrestrial finds E.T. trying to collect 3 pieces of a phone in order for E.T. to phone home. Each piece is randomly placed in different holes throughout the map. After collecting all 3 pieces of the phone, symbolized by the spelling of E.T. on E.T.'s, I guess you would call it HUD, E.T. must then also find the randomly placed call spot on the map, marked by what looks like a space invader in the HUD. Upon calling the ship, a countdown starts in which E.T. needs to hurry back to the woods he started in and to find and stand on the right randomly placed zone to be picked up by the ship. That is the basic principle of the game. However, it only gets more complicated from there, making E.T.'s job of returning home all the more difficult is 2 IRS agents relentlessly pursuing him throughout his quest. Oh, wait. I've just been informed that they are actually an FBI agent and a scientist. Sorry for the confusion. I just assumed that since one tries to take everything you have and the other one drags your butt off to jail, they must work for the IRS. E.T. also has a time limit of sorts, as every step he takes runs down his energy, shown at the bottom of the screen. Also, at random places throughout each section of the map are different zones which E.T. can activate. It is imperative for players to constantly keep an eye on the HUD in order to know when they run over these zones during play. Each zone allows E.T. to do different things. Activating a question mark will show any holes that have phone pieces in them, whether they be in there from the beginning or from the FBI guy who came to re-hide them after he stole them from you. The arrows allow E.T. to warp to the exact same spot in the next screen in which the arrow points. The little circle thing allows E.T. to eat a Reese's Pieces. Those little black dots you pick up, which are numbered to the left of your energy at the bottom of the screen, which refill 300 points to your energy. The little face calls Elliot, who will come and take your Reese's Pieces from you and add them as points at the end of the game. Giving him 9 pieces will also land you a phone part if you need one. The one that looks like a Roman numeral 3 sends the FBI agent and the scientist away. When you combine all the elements of the game together, it actually makes for a pretty intense experience, which is surprising considering the hardware. However, yes, there are holes. And yes, E.T. falls into them a lot, especially when running from his pursuers. The collision detection of the holes is off. Sometimes just running near one will land you in one. Getting out of the holes, however, is pretty simple once you get the hang of it. But yes, as has been stated in so many reviews and videos, upon escaping a hole, it is very easy to fall right back into them. It is glitchy to escape a hole, landing E.T. right above the hole on the screen, and having your first instinct, which is to press up or the direction away from the hole to get away from it, landing you right back in the bottom of the hole. However, I have found that learning the quirks of the game makes this a lot more manageable. If you land on the top of the hole, try pressing down instead of up, and E.T. will float over the hole. If you land on the right side, hold left. It doesn't make a lot of sense at first, but with a little practice, it makes falling back into holes a lot less common. The general controls of the game, outside of that glitchy falling back into holes business, feel pretty good. On the overworld, Movement is responsive in all directions, and ET even has the ability to sprint. However, sprinting makes your energy drain all the faster, so use it strategically and as needed. Getting out from the bottom of a hole is as simple as pressing a button and holding up on the joystick. Graphically speaking, the simple sprite actually does resemble ET. And the title image is also well done. Honestly, this is Atari, and I don't have enough 2600 games to comment on how ET stacks up altogether. Quite frankly, no one plays Atari for its visuals, and unless there's some really cool use of the system to create an effect we did not think was possible, they really don't need to be mentioned. Like a lot of other Atari games, ET has multiple modes of play. 3 in total. Mode number 1 is what you may call hard mode, and is the mode you are most likely to see in reviews and videos. It has both the scientist and the FBI agent in pursuit of ET. Mode number 2, medium, gets rid of the scientist but keeps the FBI guy to pursue. The third mode, and the only mode I've been able to beat, gets rid of both the scientist and the FBI guy, and just has ET hunting for the phone pieces. Call me a sissy for only being able to beat the game on easy. But Mode 1 is Nintendo... Wait, not Nintendo hard, you fool! Atari hard! And I don't see myself ever beating it unless I get lucky. The bottom line. Let's be honest here. E.T. isn't even the worst playing game on the Atari 2600, let alone the worst game of all time. Quite frankly, if you have never played a game worse than this, I encourage you to please play more games. This certainly isn't my favorite Atari game I own, but it is by far not the worst game I have played. That's not to say I wasn't cursing at the game at times, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. I know it's cool to jump on bandwagons and bash the game that crashed the industry. But if one game single-handedly crashed Atari, then quite frankly, Atari was probably going to crash anyway. There was obviously a lot more bad business decisions going on than way overproducing this cartridge. And hey! No Atari crash! No Nintendo rising up out of the ashes! No Nintendo rising up out of the ashes! And no Nintendo brats like me. And no modern gaming industry as we know it today. In which case, I wouldn't be speaking to you right now. So whatever part E.T. actually played in the great crash of 1983, gamers should actually be thankful this game exists. Please, stop jumping on bandwagons. Learn how to play this game first. Give it a try, and if you still hate it, you still hate it. Just don't hate a game because you're told to. See that right there? That's the only gamer score worth bragging to your friends in the Atari age.